before I forget, since we have like a month out,
Oh,
do you want to go to EFD?
we're live.
What's up, y'all? Woo! We're
On
live.
the right foot.
Yeah,
Robert's breaking the internet.
we're doing it again. Oh, thanks. Yeah, we're doing it again. All I had to do was click yes, and it turned on.
Yes.
Mike S is in the chat right now, and he just said, just waiting to see if you push the early button again. Oh, this
Really?
thing is garbage.
At least it worked this time.
Oh no, I didn't want to go live yet.
You know, that happened last night on the Our Paramotor Nation. They had a glitch.
An early show.
They had an early show, then a cancellation, then an early show, then a cancellation, then an early show, and then it was, early show.
Yeah.
And then cancellation, and then normal show. So
Well,
it was entertaining.
The difference is that tonight I have all my show notes completed. I have all my stuff prepped. Everything is sent out. Everything is balanced, and it's fine. Welcome to paraglidingtalk.com, the early part of the show.
Zing.
Oh, man. What a joke. They can't get technology together. Come on.
It's just time. Come on, like get
It's-
it right.
It's so funny.
Yes,
Like it
but
won't, it wouldn't let me before set up the show, right? So I have to do something different. And now it doesn't let me click go live. That's just
It just goes live
classic.
on its own now.
It just goes live. Yeah.
Nice.
It chooses when it wants to go live. Trash. Well, hopefully the YouTube algorithms will pick this up and they'll understand that this is garbage. Absolute garbage. Okay. Well, I'm glad if you're joining right now, there's 12 people that are logged in. Welcome. Glad that you guys are joining tonight's wonderful show. We have a special guest tonight. Gabe Jebb is with us, or he will be with us. He's probably still working. I did have to work pretty late and right to the last minute, but I still got everything done that I needed to get done. So glad that
Don't lie,
you're
Robert.
here.
He's probably still flying.
Ooh, no, I know he's working. I don't know if he flies very much. He ran the SIV clinic a couple weeks ago, and I think he's doing it again, or he did it again this last week. Let's put it on gallery view. Anthony Peregringo's in the backyard.
Crazy Uncle Bob said he didn't get notified of the actual show last night. Interesting. Thank you for the $5 donation, Crazy Uncle Bob, by the way.
Crazy Uncle Bob, for firing off the show with a $5 super chat contribution.
Are we live again?
Yeah,
Yes,
we're
we
live.
are.
We're just doing it live. I didn't even get to yell out doing it live.
Oh my God, that's
so
2 weekends in a row, man.
Now I know where the glitch is, so I'm going to stay far from it. What happened last time was I transfer over the information to Zoom. You know, you have to put in the streaming key code and then you choose the show. And it's normally what happens is you drag that over and then it gives you a chance to say, okay, everything looks good. Do you want to go live? Click here. And then it's in the top right hand corner. Nope. Doesn't give you that chance. As soon as you say yes on Zoom, boom, you're live.
Wow.
Boom.
Bada
That fast.
boom, bada bing. Bada boom, bada bing.
Yep.
Bada bing, bada
Hey.
bing, bada boom.
Bada boom. Hey, here we are, folks. We're live. Paraglidingtalk.com.
This might
East
be a good
Coast.
thing because, you got a lot of people that get in the chat early. Now it's going to get people to get in early. So,
Hey, maybe.
Hey, you know what? This is perfect time for this analogy. Okay? This lines up with an analogy. Okay? Wish in one hand and poop in the other. And smack them together, what do you get? A crappy wish and poop all over the place.
Crappy wish and poop all over the place.
That's what's been going on with the Zoomy YouTube thingy with the going live, boom, live. You know, like whoa, hey.
Does it say Kyle O is in the chat?
Yeah, Kyle O's in here. Leah's in here too.
Because he's on the road and he's bored.
Oh, he's driving and watching. By the way, great news. We are live on all kinds of different channels now for podcasting. All kinds. Spotify, Apple, Google. I can't remember them all. But you pick your show and it's on there. Podcasting. So you don't have to watch it on YouTube. You can listen to it.
Kyle's hanging out at Kevin's place.
Yeah, I saw Kyle's video. Hey, Mark Amundsen is in there too.
Yeah.
I saw that he's been posting videos here and there, live streaming his adventure. And I told him, you should come to San Diego. And he's like, I don't know if I'm going to come that far. Good old Kyle.
He's almost at the border of California, man. It's just a couple more.
I know.
More stones throws away.
Yeah. You could do it.
Hey, Mark Amundsen's in the chat. Tell him we're still looking for a pussycat video, the kitten video. He knows what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, see, right? Nick, he owes everybody a case of Paps in the group.
Oh, geez. That must have been from a after show that went off the tracks.
Yeah, kind of.
You don't understand. It was brilliant minds at work creating just an epic movie. So
let's just say the gerbils were all on the wheel that night.
There was a bet made that he would have the video out within a week, and he didn't do it. So he owes everybody a case.
He didn't have it out. He's giving the face palm in the chat.
He said the next day he went over his notes from that meeting and was like, "Oh my God, how much did I have to drink?
What did I commit to?" I've done that before. I've done that before where I commit to stuff, and I'm learning as I get older. Try not to commit to too much. I'm learning.
We'll lay him off. He brings a couple cases of PBR to the EFD here next month.
Tonight's show is going to be pretty special, actually, because we've got Gabe Jebb coming on. And if you don't know, Gabe Jebb he is a local legend, and in the sport of paragliding, he's got just an incredible amount of resources and history in the sport. His dad and him ran Torrey Pines for many years. He's been instructing for a long time. I'm going to introduce him again. Actually, there's a lot of stuff that I don't know about him, and that's why we're going to have him on the show tonight, which is pretty cool. But he was the tow driver at my SIV, and I got a chance to talk to him. And so we're going to talk a little bit about theory with tows, and so he's really got it down to a science. He's been doing it forever, pulling people up with boats, and he's got a really good head on his shoulders for paragliding stuff, and even paramotoring, and I think even hang gliding, and maybe even some sailplane stuff. So it's going to be a great show, and I'm pretty excited about that. And look at people are logging in like crazy. Welcome, paraglidingtalk.com. Take a look at the chat. If you're in the chat, say hi to Kyle Glee. He's on a mission right now. And then also, Mark Amundsen is in the chat. Lee Cachulo is in the chat.
Also known as the best female paramotorist.
Is she? She's known by that?
Well, yeah, word on the streets. Yeah.
Wow.
Didn't you know?
Oh,
you
I
didn't
know
know that?
Tearing it up.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Yeah. No, that's good news.
Yeah.
She's a regular. You know, she's been watching the show from pretty much the beginning.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We might. You know what? We're probably gonna have to upgrade her to give her a tool.
Yeah, for sure.
Give her the wrench next to her name.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot easier to do that. There you go. Lee Cachulo, you have just been upgraded to moderation status. Woo! Paraglidingtalk.com. Oh yeah, this is the pre-show. You thought the after show was good. The pre-show is where it's at. If you're just logging in and you're wondering, why in the heck is he starting the show early? Not even cool. Well, it is cool, and I don't know why. I don't know why it went live. I didn't click go live, tell you that. It just did it. There's a certain line that I crossed with the matrix. I broke the internet. Welcome, Craig Taylor. Did you get your, you're a tool. Did you get the invitation, Craig Taylor? You should have got that. Bob Garber's with us tonight in the chat. Fly Swapper's in the chat. Welcome. Oh, Mom wants a promotion. Look at how many people have the wrench next to their name.
But Mom's our PR person, so technically she's higher than all of the wrenches.
Oh,
she's more than merely the wrench. She's the operation.
Yeah, she's got way more control than she realizes.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, you could say she's the creator of the show.
Well, we don't tell her because we don't want to give her a big head. Because the next thing you know, it's like a balloon. You know,
she created me.
I know. That's
so
amazing enough, right there.
She made the show.
Yeah.
Oh, my beautiful wife is watching. She's texting me right now. She just said, "What the heck? You said hi to everyone else except for me." And then she just texted me, "I'll never watch you again." Oh, and she wants moderation status too. Well, don't we all? Don't we all? She's actually making me a sandwich for dinner tonight. I'm pretty excited about that because I am starving. It is now 5:53 in sunny Southern California. Welcome to paraglidingtalk.com, the early show. Lots of shenanigans tonight. I'm pretty excited about our guest too.
So I take it this is where she makes you a Nutella sandwich, but it's actually like, you know, laxative peanut butter sandwich.
Ooh, I hope not. Gosh.
That would be so horrible. I'm just saying that would be terrible. I hope that never happens. But she's got a fist on her comments there, so I don't know, man. That might be coming. Smell it first.
Oh, Craig Taylor said he didn't get the invite. Let's send it again.
Uh-oh, breaking the internet.
Craig Taylor.
Came an email, not on my Google Calendar.
Yeah, I didn't send
You
him
like to
out.
switch it up, Robert.
Yeah, it doesn't work. The calendar invites do not work anymore. Whenever I do the calendar invite, the show fails to launch when I click the button.
That's a Google thing.
Yeah, but I know that it'll launch now because we go early, half an hour.
Well, we've had issues with Google before.
Crazy Uncle Bob,
You've
Chris
had better-
Gunny. What's that?
I was going to say you had better success with the free version.
Yeah, seriously, man. Ron Sinuski, welcome to paraglidingtalk.com. Who else? Chuck Johnson, glad you're here. Kevin Can Fly is in the house. Love that guy. Should follow him on YouTube. He's got some cool videos. Who else is in here? Sandor Rendensky.
Whoa, you got that pronunciation right.
I don't know if that was right, but I threw it and I just went for it. Who else is in here? These are some great people, by the way. Every single one of these people in the chat, if you're new to this channel and you're new to watching this, make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit the bell too. You should do it. But every one of these people in the chat are amazing people. By the way, if you're chatting in the chat, your name is getting secretly written down, and then we're going to put your name in the spinny wheel, and we're going to give something away tonight. We're going to give you free stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We got people logging in from around the world, by the way. Do you guys know that people watch this worldwide?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
worldwide.
awesome.
We're around the world.
Australia, England. You got a couple guys in France, I think, you know.
I checked out my demographics on what's it called? You check your analytics. No, analytics. You check your analytics on your videos. See, if you have a YouTube channel, you can check your analytics and you can tell who watches. And you know what's funny? It says that only 1%, not even a full percent of women watch the show. We got to work on that. We should probably get some.
Well, that's Leah. She's in the chat.
Well, that's Leah and Aaron. Leah, Aaron, and Linda.
They don't.
Oh, Linda, yeah.
Mom,
Those are three.
Yeah,
those are three females right there, right off the rip, and that's not counting Blue Sky Chasers, or Eric's wife sometimes pops in every now and then.
Yeah.
Sarah, who else? You know, I think your analytics, that needs a little calibration.
Yeah. Something's wrong with that.
I did a little cross-eyed or something.
1%. Well, I guess that makes sense. If I have 3,300 subscribers or 3,200 subscribers, so if it's only 5 women, I guess that's not 1%. I don't know.
Everybody's calculating their head.
I don't do that kind of math. You know what I'm saying? I barely made it through high school. Look at all these people. You know, I got to fix some things here. Oh, we got a customer. I heard the doorbell ring.
Oh.
And it is Gabe Jebb. He is with us on paraglidingtalk.com. Gabe, we accidentally hit the live button, and so we're live. So no cussing. We kind of messed up. This happened last week. I didn't realize what was going on. We still have 2 minutes before we're actually going to officially start.
Can I leave and start cussing and then come back?
Yeah. If you gotta dump those out ahead of the show.
Plucky duck.
Or just tip the swear jar.
Yeah.
Knock yourself out.
Or if you do slip, trip, and cuss, you can pay into the Patreon. It's $10 if you cuss on the live show, and you will be accountable. There are people who will come and knock on your door and collect.
I know you take PayPal, so I'll just.
Yeah, that's right.
Typically, we hire the little kids that are out of school that have nothing better to do. How about my dollar?
Yep.
They'll sit out there all night like that.
$1. No, but it's $10 because of inflation, and so that's.
So if you can swear like 10 swear words all in the same breath, it's still only $10.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. Yes, it's only $1 from one kid, but that adds up when you have 10 kids saying it all at one time.
Speaking of, Woody Gamertag is in the chat. He said, "Holy smokes, you have Gabe Jebb. I'm doing my own show right now and I can't stay, but I hope he's doing well. Fantastic instructor. I'll watch this later." Woody Gamertag, I know you will. I know you will. He's such a good guy.
You know why he can
Woody.
watch it later? Because it's only an hour show, not like his shows that are 4 hours long.
Yeah. Yep.
Did we commit to an hour for this? I thought it was 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Stay as long as you can.
Now he's only making half as much.
As much as you can handle.
All right.
I've had a couple guys on the show that were like, "Oh man," and that's an hour. That's a long. And then when we're done, they all say the same thing. Wow, that went really fast. By the way, it's 6 p.m. 6 p.m. Pacific time. Glad you're here. Welcome to paraglidingtalk.com. I'm your host, Robert Michaels. We have a great show lined up for tonight. Gabriel Jebb is with us, and he is a local legend and known around the world for paragliding and many other things flying. And so we're going to talk to him. We're going to pick his brain. We're also joined tonight by the moderation staff. Anthony Peregringo's with us. Sean Nafsker is with us in moderation. KC80RW is with us. Nick, he is moderating. And then also Craig Taylor is somewhere. He's trying to log in. The internet is broken tonight. I don't know what the heck's going on. And I apologize ahead of time for starting the show just a little bit too early. I clicked the wrong button, and that's what happens. So I want to go into the business part of our show, paraglidingtalk.com. And I want to mention our sponsors. This show is brought to you by ppgsmoke.com. Go check out their website. They sell all kinds of great things that you can add to your paramotoring and free flight. There is great stuff on his website. He's got some new inventions coming up too, and you have to see them. You have to check them out. He's coming out with the new headphones that are unbelievable. And we're probably going to have him on the show to talk about those soon. Stay tuned for that. Go check out the website, ppgsmoke.com. Show's also brought to you by paramotorprops.com. If you break a prop and you want to get a good deal on a new one, go to paramotorprops.com. They have the greatest deals on the interwebs. Show's also brought to you by paraorangeproducts.com. If you want to get some new gear, you want to protect your already existing gear with some covers, you want to buy some wind socks or streamers, they've got everything that you need. Go check out paraorangeproducts.com. Okay, well, I am super stoked tonight. We have a great guest. Gabe is, again, like I said, he's been around the block. He's been flying for years. He grew up in the sport. He's got a great advantage because of that. And he didn't play it safe. He learned a very intense sport, a very intense thing that we do in paragliding, and took it to the max. And so we're going to talk about his stories. We're going to learn a little bit about what makes Gabe tick. Now, Gabe, you've got some things that are interesting to me. And right out of the gate, I want to just ask you, how did you get into the sport? How did you get into paragliding? And I know your dad ran Torrey Pines for a time. How did it start off? And talk a little bit about your first impressions of flying.
Yeah, so it started in actually in the mid 80s is when my dad took up hang gliding. And then I think it was, I don't know, 88, 89, something like that. He started with paragliding. And I started probably a year or two afterwards, tried hang gliding a little bit. But at the time, I was a teenager, I don't know, 13, 14 years old, something like that. And the hang glider weighed more than I did. So it just wasn't really a sport for me. Kind of in combination with it being introduced to the US and then spending a lot of time in Europe, saw a lot of paragliding happening. And it just seemed like one of those things that was a lot more convenient, something I could carry up a hill. Back then, especially, our harnesses were just, a couple of pieces. It looked like a glorified swing seat, really, a piece of wood with some straps around it. Yeah. And then, an oversized skydiving rig. It was just a lot more convenient. So that's how I started. I think I really got into it 92, 93, somewhere around there. And that was a combination of here in Southern California, and then I spent a lot of time in Europe because my mother's Swiss. So I got to spend a lot of time flying in the Swiss Alps. And
ooh, nice.
Yeah, so it was great exposure as a young kid. Here in San Diego, we used to actually have two paragliding manufacturers in the 90s. And so there was, what was it? AirTech, AT, and then Sebastian's company, AirTech, and then NAS, North American Systems. And they used to both manufacture in Sorrento Valley way before Qualcomm and any of the big buildings were there. So I got to do a lot of testing there when I was a kid. And then I moved to Europe when I was pretty young and got to do a lot of testing for some of the manufacturers and got sponsored, and was as much of a manufactured rep sponsored test pilot as you could be and a comp pilot. And the rest is kind of history.
Now you have something that's very unique to the sport, which is you've been able to see the progression of and the advancement of gliders from the very beginning. Talk about what you've seen over the years and where do you expect us to go in the future, let's say in the next 5 years or so. What are your expectations?
Well, that's a good question, because every time I make a prediction, I'm wrong. Yeah. But it's all about the critical kind of profile on the leading edge and how you keep a cleaner leading edge and the critical, what we call the profile, right? Kind of the curvature that you have and the ballooning of the cells. The more you can control that, the more efficient of a canopy you can have, the safety comes from there. And I just think they're going to keep improving the leading edge, the profile designs. And then, you know, there's, I mean, what they're doing with the line geometry now is really interesting with the 2 riser systems or the 2+1 or 2.5 systems. I think that can only progress so far because you still need some lines to support everything and give shape. But I really think the next sort of iterations are going to be using new materials and gluing canopies together rather than sewing them together. You know, there's a couple of companies that are using some adhesives now rather than just the stitching. So I think that's going to be real interesting, especially for the lighter weight equipment out there.
No kidding. I haven't heard of that.
Yeah. So there's a couple of companies that are playing with that. And, you know, one of the things that happens after canopies begin to age a little bit after that first 25 to 50 hours is everything starts to stretch, right? And the canopies, modern canopies, are designed so that the lines stretch at the same rate that the cells begin to balloon, that everything kind of distorts at the same rate. And so it still maintains a safe flying structure. But if you can get rid of things like having to put needle holes into the fabric, like the fabric's going to be much, much stronger, right? Because some of these new adhesives that they have are I think, going to make, like I said, make the canopies incredibly lighter and probably give us a much more, a much cleaner aerodynamic profile. Because again, when you're, I mean, you felt the material like new ripstop nylon or the Dacron or some of the other materials that they use, it's really hard to sew. Even with robots and things like that, it's incredibly hard to sew. It's incredibly hard to keep the precision, which is, you know, fractions of a millimeter sometimes over, you know, certain spans. It's just, you might be able to get that on a couple of canopies, but once you start mass producing these things, it's very, very difficult to do that. And so again, I think that would just be sort of a natural evolution of the sport.
Great information. Who trained Gabe Jebb?
A bunch of my dad's friends in the beginning, because my dad didn't think I was mature enough to fly. And he was right. You know, when I was a kid, I was a showboat and ended up banging myself up and spending, you know, a lot of time in the hospital. My dad, and then I was lucky enough, you know, being in Europe, to be surrounded by a lot of incredible competition pilots and designers and, you know, paragliding engineering types and instructors there. So I don't know, there's 30 or 40 or 50 instructors that have really made sort of profound impacts on my flying.
Would you say that there's one person that had the most influence on you?
I was lucky enough in the sort of mid-90s to work with Adel, which was the company that Jim used to design for before he started his own company. So I got a lot of good feedback from him when I was fairly young. And then after he left and formed his own company, they had a temporary designer by the name of Urs Imhoff, who was responsible for the designs in the mid to late 90s. He taught me a lot. Then I had a bunch of pilots from the Paratech back in the day, Andy Heidegger, and then the owner of the company at the time, I'm blanking on his name. In either case, I had a bunch of guys in Europe that really sorted me out early on.
What would you say? Let's talk about your wing and what you're choosing nowadays. What wing are you most passionate about?
It's a good question. And, you know, you've kind of asked me about 8 months too late, because now I'm in this new business and I'm not flying all that often anymore.
That's right.
And so what I was flying, the X Alps 3, which is a Skywalk lightweight kind of comp style wing, not quite comp, but a D-class glider. I just don't really feel comfortable taking out in booming conditions anymore. So I'd be more passionate about some of the B range gliders, I think, today. But I just haven't, I mean, I'm flying once a month right now, unfortunately. Which is why you didn't see me towing the other day. I'm like, you know, I love this, but I know I'm going to go out there and not be mature enough to not try and go big and end up, you know, inside of the wing.
Yeah, get wrapped up. I do want to segue, and we're going to talk a little bit about toes. But you gave me some really good feedback when I got a chance to jump on the boat with you, and great toes, by the way. And we had just an amazing time at that SIV, and really appreciate what you guys did out there. I didn't realize how much work it was until afterwards, and then you guys still went and hit it another day after I flew home and was sleeping in my own bed. So really appreciate that. So let's maybe let's stay on that topic that you mentioned. You're not interested really in flying a two-liner in rowdy conditions. Take us through that, because you're a lot of people believe you're an incredible pilot, but yet you're reserved enough to say, yeah, I don't really want to fly a two-liner in spicy conditions.
You know, there was, I don't know, I made sort of a chart years ago for the students on how often they should be flying versus the level of glider that they were flying. And, you know, for a two-liner, for a D-class glider, I really think you need to be spending 3 to 4 days a week in the air. You know, for a C-class glider, I think that's okay for weekend pilots. And if you're flying less than that, you should be looking at a B or an A. You know, and so if I'm not going to be, and again, this is something that I created probably in the early to mid 2000s, just based on my experience. And, you know, I've been trying to follow those rules ever since. So if I'm flying once a month or twice a month, you know, for me, a B is going to be the right glider, because it's just, even though some people may think it's one of those sports where it's like riding a bike, you don't forget how to do it. Your kind of reaction timing, your sensitivity to the wing, your, you know, just kind of understanding what's happening it doesn't fail, but it gets a little bit less and a little bit less. And so, you know, I also have a different flying perspective now that I'm not doing it every day. Also, I want to go up there, I want to be able to let go of the controls once in a while and take some pictures and, you know, do some other things. And so I don't feel like I need to perform at the very highest level, and therefore I don't need to be flying a wing at the very highest level.
What are you flying?
I mean, I've got a couple of different wings that I've been flying from Skywalk, like a Chili I really enjoy, the Tequila, which is the low NB, I really enjoy. I really like the Acaro Buteo. I like the split the other day, I can't remember the name now, the new B from Jin. It might not be new, but it was new to me. Anyways, it's yeah, mid-level Bs is, and I mean, there's a dozen of them out there that are.
Yeah.
I don't, you know, the new Rush is really nice. I mean, the thing also is I don't feel like there's that big of a difference in the designs of the canopy anymore, because somebody comes out with a good idea and 3 months later everybody else is using it. So
Right.
it really comes down to just sort of the feel and the handling of the glider. And so, you know, I personally prefer to fly gliders with a little bit less brake pressure. So something like a Skywalk would appeal more to me than, say, like a Rush or some of the Jin gliders do. That's, you know, again, it's more feel than it is anything else.
The glider manufacturers are leaning in and listening to see what you're saying. They're trying to figure out.
They don't care what I have to say anymore. It's been a long time since they cared.
Yeah. They don't call you anymore like they used to. You're towing cars.
Yeah.
So you've got some great history. What advice do you have for the seasoned pilot, guy who's been flying for a while?
Advice in terms of what?
Just in general. So
how to stay safe, how to improve,
yeah.
how to.
Here's what happens. I always ask these questions. I'll say, what advice do you have for the aspiring pilot, right? Man, there's tons of aspiring pilots, and I beat that question to death. But what do you have to say to the guy that's a seasoned pilot?
I mean, it depends, again, and what they're looking for, because seasoned pilots are all going to have kind of a clearer picture of where they want to go with the sport.
Right.
You know, so, you know, are they looking to progress more in cross country? You know,
yeah, for the sake of the conversation, let's do both. Let's say the first group wants their season, but they want to do acro. The next group, they're cross country guys.
Okay. So the first seasoned group that wants to do acro, I mean, get as much time over the water as possible. One of the things that you missed on the last day, what we usually go through with the first day or first clinic students and the guys that have been out 20, 25 times is, look, here's what it's safe for you to practice on your own. Here's what we want you to practice on your own, right? Because it's going to help progress your skills. Here's what's safe for you to practice on your own. Here's stuff that you shouldn't be doing unless you're out at the lake in these, quote unquote, perfect conditions, perfect environment. And so you need to find an instructor that is far enough ahead of you in ability to be able to define these parameters for you, right? So there's only a couple of those guys in the US, Max being one of them, Draganusha being another one of them, Dylan being another one of them. All of these are guys that are at such a high level that they can look at you within, one toe or, half a toe and know exactly where you're at. And they're going to define some parameters for you that are going to be, number one, help you progress in the progression that you're wanting to make. Number two, give you sort of some limitations in terms of what's safe to do and what's not. And then number three, some absolute don't ever try these, right? So the guys that want to progress in acro, I mean, yeah, practice the fundamentals are most important. Wing overs, asymmetric spirals, things in the stall regime, the tail slides or the back flying, the spin 180, some of the stuff that's not so technically dangerous or so. So keep practicing that stuff and then, get as much time over the water as high as you can so that you can practice some of the bigger stuff. And being out over the water doesn't include Torrey, it doesn't include the dumps, it doesn't include anywhere where you have surf, right? Because if something goes wrong, you land in the surf, you're in a lot of trouble. So, that's a lake or SIV somewhere. Adam, is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. And cross country guys?
Yeah, so cross country guys, it's interesting. I'm sort of split there a little bit. One side of me says that, you want to level up in wings sooner or later, or sooner than later, right? Because getting the performance edge between a B and a C, no matter what anybody says, there's a massive performance edge in the C. And the performance edge between a C and a D, no matter what anybody says, there's a big difference, right? So in one way I say level up, soon. The other side of me says that you want to fly in a lot bigger range of conditions, which may mean launching earlier in the day. When I'm out with my P1, P2 students, okay, don't launch Blossom before, 3:30, 4 o'clock, or even later in the summertime. When I'm out with my P3 students, then I might move them an hour or two earlier. And when I'm out with the super advanced students, I'll be like, yeah, fuck it, go midday, see what happens. Or go earlier in the day so you can get up higher during the day. And if that's the scenario, then you don't necessarily want to be leveled up on a wing, right? So it kind of depends on where you're at. And again, there's such a range in terms of more advanced or more skilled pilots, right? But I would say the first thing that you should do if you've been on the wing for a little bit of time and you're feeling comfortable on it and thinking about leveling up, the first thing you should do is open up that range of conditions that you're flying. So fly earlier in the day, fly in, maybe more wind or more thermal conditions, longer lapse rates than you're used to. And then when you're feeling comfortable there, then tone it back a little bit and level up in the wind, right? Until you get comfortable there. So I was conditions before I put the performance, right? But they're both really critical parts of it.
Such great information. That is really well said.
Thank you.
That is really well said. At what point did you decide I'm going to be an instructor?
It's funny because I think the first time that I broke my back and spent months and months and months in the hospital, I want to say it was 96 or 97. At the time, I was one of the top 5 or 10 pilots in the world and was doing real well in a bunch of the comps. And my dad had just taken over the glider port, I think, like a year or two earlier. And I knew no matter how good of a comp pilot I was, I wouldn't make as much money as I would teaching at the glider port. And so I asked him for a job, and he's like, and again, he was way smarter and more mature than I was. He said, absolutely not. You're an idiot. You're a showboat. You're gonna hurt yourself. You're gonna incite others to do dumb things. Absolutely not. And then and then the next time I think I asked him for a job was like 99 or a couple years later, because he's like, oh, you've been hurt, you spent some time in a wheelchair and traction. Like, now you understand the dangers of the sport that you're involved in. Now you'll probably have a little bit better, more mature perspective. And so that was the first time that I started teaching. I didn't really get interested in teaching until about, I think, 2005 or 2006. At that time, I was right around 30 years old, and I had a couple of students that were almost at my level, and or maybe even a little bit past my level. And I remember that there was a instructor, Dixon White, who I went to an instructor course with in 2001. And he said, Gabe, the sign of a good instructor is that you want your students to be better than you. And, you know, again, 4 or 5 years prior, I was like, oh, I'm never going to have students better than me, right? And then I hit 30, and I was like, all of a sudden, I'm looking at my students. I'm like, yeah, some of these guys are almost as good as me, and then the next year they'll be better than me. And as I'm getting older, my skill set, at least in acro, is not improving as quickly as theirs. And so that was the first time where I said, you know, rather than being the top-ranked competition pilot or the best acro pilot, I'm gonna focus on being the best instructor. And it was a big shift in mindset when, you know, prior to that, I might have been teaching some acro type stuff, and I'd give them 99% of the story, but not that last 1%, because I didn't want them to be a bit better than me. And after that, I'd give them 105% of the story, probably some stuff they didn't need just because I wanted them to. And it was a shift in mindset, big shift.
Nice. I've got 2 questions that I'm going to ask, and we're going to segue in just a few minutes. We're going to do a giveaway real quick, and then we're going to. But these questions are loaded questions. So the first one, and I want you to answer it before we go into the break. You broke your back. There was, and I'm sure that you've told this story a million times, but I've never heard it. And I don't know how many people that are watching this have heard it. And then also in the recent years, you had an accident with a paramotor, and there's a lot of people that watch that have paramotors. And so I want to talk about those. But first, how did you break your back? What did you learn from that? And what can you offer the people that are watching so that doesn't happen to them?
There's been 3 of them.
3. Wow.
And I'll tell you, this is again where my dad knew maturity more than I did. It's always been women and cameras that have done those things for me, right?
Yeah.
So I was there if there were women there.
Yeah.
I was doomed, right?
Yeah.
The first time, 95, 90, I think it was 95 or 96, as Europe, and I was, I don't know, training for one of the comps, and I was going to do pretty well. And, you know, there's only a couple of guys in the world that could do full loops and a paraglider. And I was like, oh, wouldn't it be great if I could do it right over launch where everybody could see me? And of course they could get the great shots. And so I looped it right into the side of a mountain. I miscalculated my altitude by about 40, 50 feet. And so I hit the side of the mountain going, I don't know, 40 or not 40, probably 60, 70 miles an hour. And was just crushed. Ended up back here immediately, and I think I spent I don't know 4 or 5 months in scripts, and then I was in traction and had a wheelchair and had a bunch, you know, some surgeries, and yeah, it took, I don't know, the better part of 2 years to really fully recover from it. I think I was flying again after 18 months, 20 months, something like that. So just about 2 years, and I learned a lot there, but the thing that I really learned the most was that I wasn't as good as I thought I was, because right after that, I ended up, we had an instructor die at Torrey back in 97. And so my dad was without a lead instructor for the school for a while. And so I came back, I mean, this is within, you know, 3 months of me busting myself up. I came out to teach a group like a week after the instructor had died. And we all got to Little Black, and this is back in the day when we used to be able to drive up to the towers up on top. And I had 27 students there, and 27 students launched forward inflations. It wasn't a lot of wind. It was the end of the day. And I was flying, I think it was an APCO Zen or a Zen 2, like the very top of the line, highest level competition when you could. And I think I had 6 or 7 failed forward launch attempts.
Oh.
And I couldn't get off the ground. And Val and Jody, 2 pilots, were up there watching me. And, you know, Val, bless his heart, was kind of like, oh, Gabe, I'm sure there's a tailwind. That's why you're not getting off. And you know, they knew I had ego, and they just kind of fed it. And, oh yeah, you know, why don't you just drive downhill? I mean, nobody could get off in these conditions, even though I had, you know, 26 students that just launched perfectly.
Yeah.
You know, they gave me the easy way out. And I got back down to the bottom of the hill, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, you know, thinking that I'm this top level pilot, when all of these brand new pilots with, you know, less than 2 or 3 months flying experience can get off the hill on their first attempt. And here I am, this hot shot that can't get off the hill on my 7th attempt. So that was sort of a big learning moment for me. And from that point on, I really went back and started studying the fundamentals, like spending a lot of time kiting and then finding people that were, you know, better at kiting and better at, you know, just the fundamentals than I was. Second time I broke my back was also stupid. It was in Aberdeen, Scotland. I was showing off in the rain. I was there doing some motoring stuff, and then had a free flying day, and it was just raining, and I was just doing loops on this 30-foot hill on the coast, and the wing was just saturated and way too heavy, and I did this loop, and it just never stopped, and I just went straight down to the ground.
Oh.
The wing never recovered. And so I think I spent 12 days in the ICU there in Scotland, and then came back and spent another week or 2 in the hospital here. And then the last time I broke my back, and the one when I really decided to tone back flying was 2007. And I had again, a super high performance, like prototype wing that was, I mean, way better than anything else on the market. And we're out at Otay, and it was blowing. And again, I had 20 or some odd students, launched them all, told everybody to go land because it's blowing way too strong. And a bunch of guys, Dave Metzger was out there that day, Raman was out there that day, a bunch of local pilots were there. And I ended up launching and just going backwards on, you know, pretty much the highest performance ship on the market, and had a bar. And when I was, I don't know, 40 or 50 feet off the ground, I took like an 80% deflation and rotated in, and I got back came back conscious when thank God the border patrol was out there and saw it, but they were giving me CPR and said I'd been dead for a few minutes. So,
whoa.
Yeah, so that was the last one. And after that, I thought, well, okay, maybe I got to slow down a little bit. And, you know, that was another one of those reaffirming times. It's time to slow down.
Wow. And you broke yourself pretty bad there at Otay?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I got life flighted off the hill, and again, spent weeks and weeks in the ICU and a bunch of surgeries. And I'm pretty certain I've had, I think it's been 9 or 10 surgeries now because of paragliding, and probably a total of 60 or 70 bones broken or rebroken.
Oh my gosh.
So
that is insanity. You broke a new record tonight. You are the most broken up paraglider pilot that we've ever had on the show.
I'm fairly certain I'm one of the world there.
We're going to do some stuff. By the way, we're going to spin the wheel. We're going to give something away. If you're in the chat, Sean, you're off work now. If you're in the chat, your name was being written down. We're putting in the spinny wheel, and the magic spinny wheel is sponsored tonight. It's sponsored by Nebraska PPG tonight, actually. I gotta set up this allowance here. How do we allow advanced sharing options? All participants. There we go.
Yeah, there
now
we
we're
go.
cooking.
Now we're cooking with peanut oil.
No, Crisco.
Here we go. Crisco oil. There
by
we
the
go.
Way, this show is also brought to you by the Tri-State Skywalkers. If you're in the Indiana, Kentucky, or Ohio area, you can reach out to Brandon McLeod. Join a flying club. It'll help you grow in the sport. It'll make you a safer pilot. And if you're interested in joining the Tri-State Skywalkers, you can follow the link in the description and reach out to Brandon McLeod. He also runs germgladiator.com. If you're trying to kill those COVID germs, you can buy the germ killing agent called Germ Gladiator, And the website's germgladiator.com. Did you already click the button? Are we free spinning?
We're spinning.
Okay, here we go.
We're slowing down. It's cool.
This is for a paraglidingtalk.com neck gator.
Oh.
This is you need a neck gator so
The
you
most greased wheel.
so you can function.
I don't know. Ew. Is he gonna get it? Oh.
Nope, it's E-teamer.
So close.
E-teamer, dude.
So close.
E-teamer.
Congratulations, E-teamer dude.
E-teamer, dude. E-teamer, dude, what I need you to do is go to the website, paraglidingtalk.com, and get the information that you, wherever you want me to send this to. I need your information. So you go to the contact page for that, and then you can send over, we'll send this over to you. And thank you for watching paraglidingtalk.com. Yeah, these neck gaiters are clutch, man. I wear mine every day. I feel like I have to. We need to send you one, Sean.
I
you
know.
You've been wearing neck gaiters before they
Long
were
time.
Yeah. Cool.
Long time, yeah.
Yeah, I got you, man. We're gonna send you one. By the way, Sean,
Send me two because I'm gonna give one to JP. JP
Oh, yeah?
asked for one a long time ago, and I told him I'd hook him
Yeah?
up. So you know,
you were like, I got the inside scoop. I can help him get one.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll send you guys out. I'll send you two of them. I know
Hey,
Anthony
awesome.
probably wants one too. You wear them, Anthony Peregrino?
Of course.
Moderation.
All the time.
All right, I'll send you one too. I got to write your names down though.
Call it the
I'll pick it up
goodness.
from you.
Send us the goodness, Robert.
JP
And send it in the mail.
and Anthony Peregrino. Woohoo! Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about that. And thanks, Craig Taylor. He's not feeling well tonight, by the way. So that's why he's not on. Yeah, not feeling too hot. But he's still moderating. You can see him in there. He's in the chat. Congratulations, E-teamer, dude. So let's talk a little bit about paramotoring. And tons of people are in the paramotoring world that are in the chat. And there's a handful of them that are getting into acro with paramotors, which is kind of cool because you got thermal on your butt and you just go up and do it. For me, I don't have a motor, so I got to go off the hill and find a thermal, and then I can do some stuff. But
Do you not fly motors?
I have, and
Yeah.
I really would like one. I just don't. I don't own one. Yeah, I don't own one. Not yet. We're working on it. Actually, one of the sponsors of the show is working on getting me a setup.
Awesome.
We'll see if it happens. I'm not holding my breath. I got Blossom in the backyard, so I can just climb up the hill. But I really want one. Talk to us about your background in paramotoring, and talk about some of the things that you gleaned along the years that you've learned and said, I'm going to make sure that I share this with people so they don't make the same mistakes.
I think I flew a motor the first time. It's either 92 or 93. I was flying in Europe, and Vitarazi saw me flying at just some comps, and they're like, hey, you're going back to the US, take these motors with you and try and rep them. And so it was either 92 or 93. I brought 3 Vitarazi water-cooled motors back to the US and started flying them. I really didn't care for motoring in the beginning because I looked at it as a replacement for free flight, right? Where I thought I could use the motor to get up, shut off the motor, and then thermal around, and it'd be like free flight. And it just really didn't work out that way because they were bulky back then. They were completely underpowered. And so in the early years, I really didn't care for motoring all that much. The last 10 or 15 years, I don't want to say I prefer motoring because it is a different sport, but I think it's safer than free flight because you get to pick and choose your conditions, and you can pick and choose the terrain. Especially out at a place like Torrey or so at the end of the day, or Blossom, where you're starting to scratch real close to the hill. Like with a motor, you've got a throttle. You don't need to do that, right? So you don't have to worry about putting yourself in the lee side conditions or scratching too close to the hill. And in motoring, unfortunately, I feel like there's a bit of a lack of instruction that has been what's made it a little more dangerous. And this could be just some antiquated talk because I know in the last 5 years or so, the instruction levels really picked up. But, 10, 15 years ago, you could buy a motor, get a half-day instruction or no instruction, and bam, you're on your own. And so I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions in the motoring community about when you can and can't fly. Like if you really understood the weather and could look at things like lapse rates and stuff, like there's days when it's perfectly okay to fly all day, midday, thermic conditions or not, because we can predict how big the thermals are going to be. We can predict what their climb rates are going to be. We can predict what the sink rates are going to be. And contrary to what people think, weather is pretty close to damn absolute science. I mean, the weatherman might not get it right on TV all the time, but when you really understand some of the meteorological dynamics, you can get incredibly accurate. So I personally am a big fan of motoring. Like I said, I think it's a lot safer than free flight. What I've gleaned over the years is that I think the accidents that do occur, like I said, are either a lack of training or a lack of preparation. And preparation being things like just motor maintenance and really kind of understanding the mechanics of the aircraft that you're flying. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. What else do you want to hear?
No, that is all incredible information. When you talk about transferring over,
yeah,
and you're talking about, okay, we're getting up a little earlier, we're flying when the conditions are smoother, you can go low and slow, there's a lot
right.
more options for you. Me, free flight, go ahead.
That's what I like about motoring, is that you can be buzzing a couple feet off the ground. I mean, when I do fly them out at the coast, it's great. I can go fly close to the surfers, not over the surfers, but kind of close to them, and feel like I'm carving the waves there and dragging my feet in the sand. And if I'm out in the desert, hopping over the bush and going around the fence and between the trees or into the canyon or something like that, stuff that I wouldn't be able to do without a motor. So it really, if you look at it as a different sport, then it's not going to disappoint you like it did for me in the very, very beginning, right? So I see it as a completely different sport. And I've got some incredible video of flying my motor through gray whales as they're breaching through the spray, right?
Yeah.
I'm just covered in whale snot, it smells like shit, but I'm like, this is a christening. And there's no way that I could have ever done that on a paraglider. I just about did a foot drag for 30 feet on the back of a gray whale while it was breaching, and then it started spraying. And I'm like, I'm just going to fly right through that, and being able to go, especially when the whales are migrating, going a couple miles offshore and seeing the blue whales, they're out there. The whale watching boats have to stay a couple hundred yards away from them, but you can fly, 50, 100 feet over them. Or, I flew in Africa quite a bit with a motor, which is just incredible. You fly through the Serengeti, through some of the parks, and, all of the animals there don't expect predators coming from the air. And you're not in a Jeep that's making noise. You're not in a helicopter that's making noise. You can be up at 2,000 feet, spot some black rhinos, glide down to, within a few hundred feet of them, and then take off again. And it's just a phenomenal sport but it's different, right? It's completely different. Yes.
We were laughing when you told that story about flying through the whale snot, and that your car for years afterwards still smelled like whale.
I wouldn't say years, but man, I had just gotten a brand new, really nice car, and my car, my clothes, everything just, whatever you call it, it smells terrible.
Whale breath.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about, you've shared a little bit about being reckless. What advice do you have for the guy that is a little reckless now?
So again, it's like get with a good instructor, because one of the things, and I don't know how to say this the right way, but when I was doing all the coaching for the clinics that we have, which was up until a few months ago, we can see guys when they're reckless, and so we'll scare them just enough to tone them back a little bit. And I've made the mistake where I've scared some people out of the sport because I thought they were being too reckless. And again, I kind of have the trigger there or the dial on how much I want to turn it up on them. And so, so if you have a good instructor, they're going to help you, again, stay within your boundaries. And some of the ways that we do that is sometimes, push you a little bit further than you might be comfortable going, and in a way that'll bring you back. being reckless though, it's so hard to teach maturity to somebody in the sport. It's something that happens when, and this is one of the things that I think we do really well at the glider port, is on the first day, I call it the pilot and command speech. We have a discussion with our students. It's about 30 minutes long about what it means to be a pilot. And when you set the expectations that very first day of training, that they're going to be a student for the rest of their life, they're always going to be learning something. The day that they stop learning is probably the day they become dangerous. So they either need to find somebody else that can keep teaching them, or figure out, again, how to broaden that area that they fly in. I feel like you can prevent that recklessness from ever occurring just based on how you handle that first 30 minutes of interaction with new pilots. We had a bunch of years ago where they would talk about intermediate syndrome. And, again, I felt like that was because nobody ever created a set of expectations early on in the piloting, right? And so I don't know how to say this, but when you're there, it's almost too late, and then it's almost that, again, this sounds absolutely terrible, but it's almost, I hope they get hurt, because that'll force them to take a step back and realize what the value of their own mortality is, not hurt so badly that they can't, ever fly again or live a normal life. But you almost hope that some of those reckless pilots do something that kind of wake them up. It's one of the reasons why I also think teaching hang gliding is a lot safer than paragliding, because hang gliding, you get a lot of bumps and bruises the first couple days or first 10 or 15 or 20 lessons. I mean, you're skinned up everywhere. You learn a lot of respect for the equipment, for the conditions that you're flying in. It's a little bit more physically demanding. So, after a couple of runs, you're out of breath or done for the day. Paragliding, I mean, really, especially, I always call it the Volvo syndrome. Like, they've made these things so damn safe that, you can get off the ground with 10 minutes of instruction and be flying.
Yeah.
And the problem is, you build a safer car and all you do is create more reckless drivers.
Yes.
Right. And so I almost wish they would take it back a notch and not make it so easy or so accessible, because then I think people would have a little more respect for the sport.
Here's a great question from the chat. Mark Amundsen asked, he said, can you ask Gabe about some experiences he had while he was learning new maneuvers and things didn't go right, and what he learned from those experiences?
Yeah, so when I was learning maneuvers, there were not anybody teaching them. So, the first time I did full stalls and stuff, I mean, I talked to Andy Hediger, I talked to a couple of guys, some of the old test pilots in the day, but like none of us really knew how to do them. So what I did is made sure my reserve was repacked and I made sure I knew how to throw it. And I've thrown it 302 times. So,
wait, is that an actual number? 302 reserve tosses?
Yeah, 2 logged reserve deployments.
302.
302. Yeah, I've done every type of reserve you can imagine. I used to carry a cutaway system when I was testing gliders.
Okay, I do want to talk about that, because we talked with a couple guys that think that might be the future of acro, that guys are going to be flying around with cutaway stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We'll get there in a second. I don't want to disrupt what you were talking about, your progression on these moves.
When you're learning maneuvers, number one, you got to learn the fundamentals. And I don't care what anybody says, but the wing over, executing a perfect wing over is probably the hardest thing that you can do. And what I really like about wing overs and asymmetric spirals, which are essentially the same thing, is that they're counterintuitive. And so when people are trying to teach themselves, they do it wrong. Because what the intuitive timing that you feel is right is actually wrong and can get you in a lot of trouble. So, learning from somebody that knows, and again, there's, a half dozen guys here in North America that do, learning from somebody that knows, I think is absolutely critical. So wing over asymmetric spiral for the dynamic maneuvers, getting comfortable with stalls, and then, tail slide back flying on the stall regime side, also absolutely critical. Because if something goes wrong, it's either going to be a stall or a reserve deployment that fixes it. Things like, the SAT is important but it's not that difficult to do. You know, it doesn't have, I mean, I guess once you get into the higher level acro stuff, it's helpful, but wing over asymmetric spiral on one side, stall back flying on the other side, that's the best stuff you can do. And that is something that you need to learn from somebody that knows what they're doing. And, you know, people ask me all the time, oh, when should I do an SIV maneuver? As soon as freaking possible. Like 10 flights, 15 flights, 20 flights, 25 flights, like in that initial learning period is a really good time to do it. Number one, these are things that are going to help you for the rest of your life. Number two, you don't have any sort of preconceived notions about what you should be doing. So the chances of you actually learning and learning, you know, the timing that we want to teach is much, much higher. I have a harder time with guys that have 5 or 10 years flying experience than I do with guys that have 25 or 50 flights, because they have a lot of anxieties that are already built up about the sport. They've seen a lot of shit or stuff on YouTube go wrong. They've, you know, heard a lot of talking from their friends that probably don't know what the heck they're talking about. And so they have all these preconceived notions of what things are supposed to be like, versus somebody that's brand new. Just trust the instructor, does everything on the timing that we give them, because we're on the radio with them, okay, now, or pull, or right or left, or whatever it is. And they usually end up accelerating quite a bit more in the course. And then in the long run, I think they become much better pilots because they have that finite, you know, control already from an early stage.
Great information. Real quick, I want to just give a shout out to a couple more sponsors. This show is also brought to you by Torrey Pines Glider Port. Torrey Pines Glider Port is the best place to get some really good training right on the coast in the most beautiful weather, in the most beautiful place. Check out Torrey Pines Glider Port's website. The website is flytorrey.com. That's flytorrey, TORREY.com. Check out their website. There's all kinds of good resources on there. Show is also brought to you by the Lone Star Paramotor team. If you're in the Lone Star state of Texas, you can reach out to Ron Turan and his team for world-class training. LoneStarParamotor.com. Show is also brought to you by iFly Indiana Powered Paragliding. If you're in the Indiana area and you want to get some good training, Kevin and his team will get your feet off the ground. That's iFlyIndiana.com. I do want to say that I really appreciate everybody who has been supporting the show on Patreon. Jebb, you were going to say something?
Yeah. Where are the Lone Star guys in? What part of Texas?
They are in. Good question. They are in.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, I do remember this. I think they're in Dallas.
Oh, I thought they were on the coast.
Actually, we can have one of the moderators search that information up. Yeah.
That was Craig Taylor. He would have found it. He'd have been on like Craig would have got it like that. We miss you, Craig.
Where's Nick at?
Hopefully you get feeling a little bit better, buddy.
Question.
Yeah. Yeah. But what I was getting at is the
I'm here. I just had it muted.
Craig posted it up. iFlyIndiana.com. Yep.
No, he was asking about Lone Star Paramotor.
And where their address is. I just looked it up.
Yeah, he's got LoneStarParamotor.com up on the in the chat room.
Cool. You guys are fast. I was going to say that I got to do the SIV because of the supporters of the show on Patreon. So thank you for all the Patreon supporters and all the supporters on PayPal. Thank you so much for your contribution. If you want to keep the show going, you can contribute. It's the equivalent of a cup of coffee, and it will give you something that you can learn. And what's cool about it is you're investing in other people's safety. Every show you're learning something. Every show I learn something that makes me a better pilot. And so it's worth investing in. So thank you. I really appreciate everybody who's doing that and supporting that. By the way, the show is sponsored by Resurgence PPG. They are a 501c3 nonprofit organization that supports our veterans. And so if you want to support them, go to their website, resurgenceppg.com, and support them. It's tax deductible. So you want to do that if you're going to do big contributions. That is amazing. Yeah, it's in Austin. It's in Kyle, Texas. Thank you, Craig Taylor. Yeah, moderating from the sick bed. He's not feeling well.
I used to fly motors there years ago in the 90s. There was two ladies, I forgot their name, that ran Mojo's Paragliding, which was the first real big paragliding online store in the US, and they had a PPG school in Austin. So I used to fly there and hill country with them once in a while. Just 25 years ago. It's nice flying there.
What have you seen over the years in advancements? And have you ever flown a flat top?
Flat top, no. No, I haven't flown a flat top. What have I seen in advancements for motors or just in general?
Yeah, because I mean, you've seen it all. You've seen it where it was like a lawnmower, and now Vitarazi's just, they're cranking out some pretty good stuff, except for the MY19.
Hey, that
Not so
relates to the question. There was a question early in the chat by Brian Richards. What does he think about Dominator being the safest wing in the industry?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No comment.
No comment.
It's BS. There's no safest wing in the industry. It's the pilot, not the wing. What have I seen him? Yeah, so back in the day, most of the motors, like the most popular one in the early mid 90s was the Solo 210. I think it was a Austrian make, and I think they made water pumps. I think they used it for farming, for agriculture.
Oh, wow.
So it was really interesting to see how, we were taking motors that weren't really designed anything, and then they started moving, Vitarazi and Polini and all these companies make motors for mopeds and stuff in Italy for like scooters, right?
Yeah.
And now
Vespa,
yeah. And now to see some things that are custom, I wouldn't say custom built, but more designed for experimental aircraft and aviation. Some of the, especially on trikes, you see some of the Rotax engines and stuff. I don't know. I keep hoping that there's going to be a battery powered something, but I've flown a bunch of the battery powered motors or some of the prototypes, and I think they're absolute shite. And years ago we had a couple of companies that made 4-strokes, and I also wasn't really happy with them. So
too heavy.
Yeah, too heavy, and it's really hard to beat the power to weight ratio of a 2-stroke. I'm not sure there's really anything out there that can, at least not right now. So it's interesting to see how far they'll be able to push that technology, because I think in every other aspect of small motor and engine mechanics, I think 2-strokes are kind of coming out of favor. So seeing how far that's going to progress, I'm not sure. I'd really, like to see some battery powered units, but I think we're years away from development there, or from it becoming a reality, and a functional reality.
We're actually really, I would say close. We're a year in. PPG Smoke, Ryan Roberts is working on the design for that, for a really good electric paramotor, and he's almost there. He's got pretty much all the kinks worked out. He's the one that's going to get me connected with a frame. He's designing all kinds of stuff. It's worth a glance at his website. You might be impressed. And he's a great guy. We'll have him on the show here soon enough. I'll get you in contact with him.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Yeah, I mean the electric ones that I flew, you got instantaneous throttle response, and you get good thrust out of it, but then I don't know, you don't have the longevity. You definitely, I didn't feel like it. I don't know. I was just so unimpressed with all of them, and flying full throttle, you get 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, and then an hour and a half recharge time, and it just didn't. And then the ones that had better battery lives were so freaking heavy that they were 30 pounds more than a 2-stroke. I just it's gonna be hard to beat. So I'd love to see what he has.
He's got this one up to 35 minutes full power, which is pretty impressive. I don't know how much time you can get on a motor. What is it, like an hour and a half full gas tank? More? Two?
No, quite a bit more.
It's an hour per gallon.
Yeah,
it's an hour per gallon, so 2 hours.
Yeah,
I've got a 5-gallon tank.
Yeah,
so
wow,
3 to 5 gallons.
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah, he's working it out. We'll see what happens and what comes of it. I've got just a couple more questions. We're almost out of time. There was a question in the chat also. How many hours do you recommend before I take an SIV course. This was from Brian Waller. He said, I've heard a wide range of answers.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, as soon as possible. I don't know. I mean, we've had people that had their very first flights out at the SIV course on the tow line, but as soon as possible. I think starting at about 5 hours, we're probably really going to appreciate it. And anything over 50 hours, then we've got stuff that we have to work out, take away from, undo, some training that we have to undo.
Wow. Any regrets?
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, because I was so, I really got caught up in paragliding and especially in Europe, you can make some money doing it. I had sponsors and unfortunately also at that time I got distracted with a lot of drugs and partying and some other stuff, and it took a lot of my focus off of flying and really, I feel like I could have probably gone a little further with my flying than I did if I would have been more focused. And then I also feel like I would have, if I had heeded some of my dad's advice early on and not showboated so much, after you've hurt yourself and had serious injuries a couple of times, you start to hesitate. You start to second guess your decisions when you're going XC and hesitate when you're doing new maneuvers and acro. And, I do think it's a sport where you can go your entire career without injury. And so, if I can share with people how to avoid that, then that's what I'm all about.
Amazing. I wanted to get to this, and we only have about 3 minutes left, but I want to just ask you about towing. You gave some really good feedback about towing. Is there anything that kind of stands out that you're seeing over and over again, people making the same mistakes and how they can be better on tow? We got a ton of people that are going on these acro or these SIV trips. There's people lined up right now that are going to their first SIVs. Towing was so foreign to me when I showed up to the clinic, and I'd never done a tow. I had no idea how to set up the tow bridle. What advice do you have for the new guys, and what are you expecting when you're in the boat?
So for the new guys, again, there's probably only 3 or 4 groups that I really recommend taking an SIV clinic, because there's levels and levels and levels of instruction, and you want to go from one of these guys that are the top level of instruction. In terms of mechanics and being in the boat, it's, you go back to your day one training. Do practice a bunch of forward inflations before you get out there. Learn how to inflate the canopy without pulling really hard on the risers. If you're a motoring pilot and you're used to leaning back, when you start to feel that thrust, coming off the back, it's going to feel a little different when it's tugging you forward, but make sure you do get forward and start to do the inflation like a non-powered pilot would with that, what we call the torpedo position. Wait until you got some altitude before you get into your harness. Pay a lot of attention to the direction the boat's going and the direction your wing's going. They're usually not going in the same direction on your first tow or your first couple of tows. And then just go with an open mind. The best instructors are going to push you just like that's your comfort level, and we'll go just that much past your comfort level, because that's how you're going to progress. If you go that much past your comfort level, we'll scare you out of the sport. So, just have an open mind and trust the people that you're with. The thing I like about SIV is I always say that paragliding is a sport of calculated risks, right? And you're always weighing the risk reward factors. And when we're teaching at the lake and when we're doing SIV clinic, it's the only time where I really feel like I have 100% control of the environmental variables. So then the only variable out there is the pilot, right? Because we take care of all the mechanical variables with the boat. I understand all the weather variables and thermics or wind or whatever it might be. So the only variable is the participant, is the pilot, and that's what makes it such a rewarding experience. Because when you have guys that know what they're doing on the other side of the radio, then that 100% focus on you is just going to really expand your flying. And then remember, we used to think it was sort of a one-time experience. You got the badge and you never had to do it again. But go often. The more often you go, the better you're going to be.
Excellent information. One quick question about, and this is from a guy that's in the chat. He said, please ask Gabe about cutaway harnesses. And
it's the very safest system out there. So the way that it's been incorporated in some of the super acro and a couple of the other harnesses out there, a little bit questionable, but cutaways are far and away. I mean, that's why they use them in skydiving, right? And it was really interesting in the mid 90s, a company called Independence made a paragliding cutaway system, and they sold a bunch of them. But they found out that paragliding pilots were less likely to deploy a reserve if it was a cutaway because they had this innate fear of being disconnected from their main, right? Which is not something that you have in skydiving. So if you're gonna have a cutaway system, I would highly recommend you get a couple of skydiving jumps, just so you understand conceptually how it works and mechanically what's gonna be happening. But yeah, a cutaway system it's the safest. There's nothing better than a cutaway.
Wow. Even in the middle of you're over trees and stuff. I mean, Saboba, you're going to cut away at Saboba?
Yeah, I mean, cutaways you're going to have a faster deployment than you would with any other. I mean, some of the squares are really good, but you'll have a full deployment with 30, 35 feet of altitude loss. And a traditional round is going to be 70, 80, 90 feet, and square maybe 50 or 60 feet. There's nothing that'll open faster than a cutaway.
Do you think that's the future of paragliding? That's going to be a normal thing?
I think it should be the future of the reserves, but again, you have to have some skydiving experience because you have to understand landing speeds and flaring with the cutaway system.
Totally different.
And yeah, and again, that psychological barrier of, oh my God, I'm going to release my main. Like I said, the study that DHV did was that people that should have been throwing their reserves weren't because they were afraid of releasing their main, right? Which is exactly the wrong reason.
Yeah.
Right. So in that case, yeah, go back to a round or a square, which is a no-brainer. But yeah, cutaways are the way to go.
Incredible show. Gabe, Jebb, thank you so much for coming on, man. A wealth of knowledge. I would love to have you come on again if you would be willing to do it.
Absolutely.
Just awesome. I put a link in the description to his Facebook if you wanted to ask him some questions on the side. Just really cool. I had such a great time at the SIV. I learned so much on that one trip. Super stoked about that. If you want to, maybe you want to go on an SIV trip, you can reach out to him or Max. And there's all kinds of information that you can get from paraglidingtalk.com. Go to the website, check out the past episodes. We're on episode 132 tonight. So there's 132 episodes. You can learn something from every single one. Go back and watch them. By the way, great news. We're on all types of platforms now for podcasting. So if you're just wanting to listen and you can't watch the show live, or you can't watch the show while you're driving or something, go check out on whatever your favorite podcasting. And we're on Apple, we're on Stitcher, we're on all of them. So go check them out. And I'll be loading this one on there as well. And so thank you so much for coming on. We're going to go to the after show. Stick around if you can. And if you are one of the supporters of the show, you want to come on the after show, put your email in the description. We'll send you a quick invitation. Gabe's going to stick around for just a couple more minutes, and we're going to ask him.
Thank you. It's been an honor. It's been a pleasure.
I told you 1 hour went by fast, huh?
It did.
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah, thank you so much. And big shout out to you for doing this. So.
Hey, thanks, man. And thank you for the moderators, Sean. I appreciate you, Nick, Anthony Peregringo, Craig Taylor. Appreciate you even laying in the bed and still moderating and dropping great information in the chat. We will see you on the next one. If I don't see you on the air, I'll see you in the air. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon. Paraglidingtalk.com.